Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshaken, even in the middle of heated arguments or confrontations, while others explode, raise their voice, and lose control? These individuals stand still, composed, and unbothered. What makes them different? The answer is not physical strength, not status, not wealth. It is calmness. Calmness is power. Calmness is control. Calmness is the hidden weapon most people never learn to master. In moments of chaos, when anger fills the air, most people let their emotions take the driver's seat. They say things they regret. They make decisions that harm them later. They give away their power to the person who provoked them. But the one who stays calm, that person owns the room. That person controls the outcome. That person becomes untouchable. Think about it. Every confrontation is a battle for control. It's not really about the words spoken. It's about who influences the energy of the moment. If you get angry, you are no longer leading, you are being led by the situation. But if you remain calm, you take away the fuel of the fire. Anger cannot survive without reaction. A storm cannot last without resistance. When you are calm, you disarm the chaos. Calmness does not mean weakness. In fact, calmness is one of the strongest positions a human being can take. To remain calm when someone insults you, to breathe steady when someone raises their voice, to keep your posture firm when tension rises, that requires immense strength. Weakness is shouting back. Weakness is letting emotions drag you into the mud. True strength is silence. True strength is peace. Now imagine the shift this creates, not just in the other person but in yourself. When you stay calm, your mind becomes clear. You see the bigger picture. You notice what the other person misses while they are blinded by focus. While they lose control, you gain control. This is why calmness is not only a shield, it is also a sword. It protects you, but it also gives you the upper hand. And here's something most people forget. Calmness demands respect. Think about the people you admire, the leaders you trust, the mentors who inspire you. Are they the ones who scream in every disagreement? Or are they the ones who remain steady, composed, and confident, even when faced with pressure? People naturally gravitate towards those who can stay calm under fire. Calmness is magnetic. Calmness is leadership. But here's the truth. This power is not something you are born with. It is something you train. It is something you practice. And once you master it, it changes not just how people see you, but how you see yourself. Because calmness is more than an attitude. It is a mindset. It tells your brain, I am not a victim of this situation. I am in control of myself. And when you are in control of yourself, you are free. Now let me give you a reason to stay with me until the end of this message. If you watch until the final words, you will walk away with not just ideas, but with practical steps. Steps that can make you unshakable in any confrontation you will ever face. Imagine walking into any room, any argument, any heated situation, and knowing that nothing can shake you. That is the reward waiting for you if you listen closely. So the next time chaos rises around you, remember this. Calmness is not passive, it is active. It is strength under control. It is the ability to master the battlefield without lifting your voice. And once you learn to stay calm in the storm, you will realize the storm was never the threat. The only real danger was losing yourself in it. Calmness saves you from that. Calmness makes you unstoppable. When confrontation happens, the first thing that rises is not logic, it is emotion. Anger, fear, pride, and frustration rush to the surface faster than reason can catch up. This is not a sign of weakness. It is how the human brain is wired. When we feel threatened, our body activates a survival response. The heart beats faster, the breath shortens, and the mind prepares for attack or defense. But in the modern world, most confrontations are not physical battles, they are emotional ones. And yet the brain reacts as if survival is on the line. This is why people say things they don't mean during an argument. The emotional brain takes control, while the rational brain shuts down. The fight becomes less about truth and more about ego. It becomes less about solving the problem and more about winning the moment. And in that rush, mistakes are made. Words cut deeper than intended. Actions go too far. Relationships are damaged, sometimes beyond repair. Understanding this is powerful, because once you know why emotions rise so fast, you can learn to take control of them. You can step back and remind yourself, it is not life or death. I do not need to give my emotions permission to lead me. That single thought can shift everything. It pulls you out of the trap of reacting and places you back in the position of choice. Calmness begins with this awareness. You cannot stay calm if you don't recognize when emotions are trying to hijack your mind. The people who seem unshakable in confrontation are not emotionless. They simply know how to separate feeling from action. They feel anger, but they do not let it guide them. They feel fear, but they do not let it silence them. They understand that emotions are signals, not commands. When you master this, every confrontation changes. You no longer get dragged into the fire. Instead, you stand above it, watching clearly, deciding carefully, and responding with strength. That is how calmness turns chaos into clarity. 3. The silent strength of self-control. Calmness is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of emotion. When you remain calm in the middle of confrontation, you are showing self-control at the highest level. Self-control is silent strength. It does not scream. It does not force. It does not need to prove itself. It simply holds its ground, and that alone commands respect. Think about it. When someone loses their temper, they may look powerful for a moment, but inside they are being controlled by the situation. They are no longer leading. They are being led by anger. But the person who stays calm stands above the storm. That person shows that their emotions do not own them. They own themselves. And that is real strength. Human psychology proves this over and over again. People naturally pay attention to the one who seems steady when everyone else is shaken. The calm person becomes the anchor in the chaos. Their silence is not weakness. It is presence. Their steady voice is not soft. It is power. Because when the world expects you to explode, and you do not, you shift the balance of control instantly. This is why calmness often feels like dominance. It shows the other person that you will not be moved. You will not be broken. You will not be broken. You will not be dragged into emotional games. It turns confrontation into an advantage because your opponent wastes energy while you conserve it. In silence, you become louder than their noise. Self-control also gives you clarity. It allows you to think while others are drowning in emotion. In this way, calmness is not just strength, it is intelligence. It's the difference between reacting blindly and responding wisely. And wisdom always wins in the end. To hold your calm is to hold your power. The moment you master self-control, you stop being a prisoner of confrontation and start being the master of it. That is the silent strength that turns ordinary people into leaders. The greatest power in any confrontation is not the words you speak, but the pause you take before speaking them. That pause is a shield. It creates space between the fire of your emotions and the strength of your response. Most people react instantly, and that reaction almost always comes from anger, fear, or pride. But when you pause, even for a few seconds, you shift from being controlled to being in control. This small pause has an enormous impact on the brain. It interrupts the emotional surge and gives your rational mind time to return. In those few seconds, you can choose clarity over chaos. You can decide whether the next words out of your mouth will escalate the storm or dissolve it. This is why one calm breath can change the entire direction of a confrontation. It gives you back your power of choice. People who master the pause are never easy to manipulate. They do not fall into traps, they do not get baited by insults, and they do not waste energy on meaningless battles. Instead, they use that moment of silence to observe. They watch the other person reveal themselves. They listen closely, not to react but to understand. And in doing so, they turn confrontation into information. The pause also changes how others perceive you. Silence after provocation makes people curious. It makes them wonder what you are thinking. It creates authority because it shows you are not rushed, not shaken, not desperate to prove anything. And when you finally choose to respond, your words carry more weight because they are chosen, not thrown. Psychology teaches us that emotions lose intensity when they are not immediately expressed. By pausing, you weaken the grip of anger. You reduce the power of fear. You free yourself from the trap of saying what you will regret. In that pause, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the moment. To pause before reacting is to claim ownership of the situation. It is a simple act, yet it separates those who are ruled by emotion from those who rule themselves. And in confrontation, that difference decides everything. One of the biggest reasons people lose control in confrontation is ego. Ego whispers that you must win, that you must have the last word, that you must prove yourself right. It feeds on pride and fear of looking weak. But the truth is, ego is the real weakness. It blinds you, it makes you reactive, and it keeps you chained to the need for validation. When ego takes over, every disagreement feels like a battle for survival. You stop listening, you stop thinking, and you fight only to protect your image. This is why arguments often spiral out of control, because both sides are no longer speaking from reason, but from wounded pride. And the more ego grows, the further you drift from resolution and peace. Letting go of ego does not mean surrendering. It does not mean allowing others to disrespect you. It means you no longer waste energy trying to prove yourself in meaningless ways. True confidence is quiet. It does not need to shout. It does not need to dominate. And it does not need to prove anything to anyone. Calmness becomes possible when the ego no longer controls the conversation. Think of the strongest individuals you admire. Their strength does not come from fighting every battle. It comes from choosing which battles are worth their energy. Ego wants to fight over everything. Wisdom knows when to walk away. And walking away is not weakness, it is power. It is the power to say, this situation does not control me. I control me. Psychologically, the moment you release ego, you create space for calm. Your mind is no longer tied to the need for approval of it. You become free to see the bigger picture, to hear the other person clearly, and to respond with strength instead of insecurity. Escaping the ego trap is one of the greatest steps toward mastering confrontation, because once ego is removed, calmness flows naturally. And when calmness leads the way, you win. Not just the argument, but the respect that lasts far beyond it. Calmness is not only about silence, it is also about listening. In the heat of confrontation, most people are too busy preparing their reply to actually hear what is being said. They interrupt, they defend, they attack, but they rarely listen. This is why conflicts grow, because no one feels understood. Yet when you truly listen, you disarm the other person in ways anger never could. Listening has a powerful psychological effect. When someone feels heard, their intensity drops, their voice lowers, their body relaxes, and their need to fight weakens. Why? Because much of confrontation is not about the issue itself. It is about the desire to be acknowledged. By listening, you give them what they are unconsciously craving, validation of their feelings. This does not mean you agree. It simply means you respect their voice. When you listen with calm focus, you gain something even more valuable: information. Every word, every tone, every pause reveals what the other person truly wants, what they fear, and what drives their reaction. While they are speaking, they are exposing their mindset. And while you are silent, you are gaining the upper hand by understanding them better than they understand you. Listening also protects you from overreacting. Instead of rushing into defense, you slow down and let the storm pass. This keeps you grounded, and it often shifts the entire energy of the confrontation. The other person begins to mirror your calmness without even realizing it. True power in conflict does not always come from speaking louder, but from listening deeper. The person who listens controls the flow. They hold the key to diffusing the tension and guiding the conversation toward resolution. So when confrontation comes, remember this: silence is not empty. Listening is not weakness. Together, they are weapons sharper than anger, stronger than pride, and more effective than any argument. Through listening, you protect your calm and lead the confrontation to your advantage. Your voice is more powerful than you realize. In confrontation, it can either escalate the chaos or dissolve it. Most people raise their voices when anger takes over, believing that volume equals strength. But psychology tells a different story. A calm, steady voice carries far more authority than shouting ever could. Calmness in tone signals control, confidence, and clarity, and it has a magnetic effect on everyone involved. When you speak calmly, the brain of the other person reacts differently. Loud, aggressive voices trigger defensiveness and hostility. Calm voices, however, activate attention and lower resistance. People start to listen. Their aggression begins to soften. The conversation shifts from conflict to dialogue. Your words carry weight not because they are louder, but because they are chosen, deliberate, and free from panic. The power of a calm voice goes beyond the immediate moment. It projects inner strength. It tells the other person that you are not ruled by emotions, that you can think clearly under pressure, and that you are unshakable. And this alone can prevent arguments from escalating into battles. Calmness becomes a form of silent authority that commands respect without demanding it. Psychologically, a calm voice also influences your own mind. When you lower your tone and slow your speech, your body responds by reducing stress hormones. Your heart rate drops, your thoughts become clearer, and your focus sharpens. This creates a positive feedback loop. Your calm voice reinforces your calm mind, and your calm mind keeps your voice steady. In any confrontation, mastering the voice is as important as mastering emotion. It is the bridge between inner control and outward influence. By speaking calmly, you communicate not only what you want to say, but also that you are in command of yourself and the situation. Remember, strength is not measured by volume. It is measured by control. A calm voice carries authority. A calm voice disarms tension. A calm voice turns confrontation into opportunity. And once you harness it, every heated situation becomes a chance to show true power. Confrontation often feels like a battlefield of emotion. Anger flares, frustration rises, and fear whispers doubts into your mind. Most people react immediately, letting emotion dictate their words and actions. But true power comes when you choose logic over emotion. Logic allows you to respond with clarity instead of reacting with chaos. When you act emotionally, you give control to the situation. You let the heat of the moment drive your decisions. Your words may wound, your actions may backfire, and the problem only grows. Logic, however, creates space. It allows you to step back, analyze the situation, and respond strategically. By choosing reason over reaction, you turn confrontation into a controlled exchange rather than a destructive fight. Psychology shows that the human brain processes logical decisions differently than emotional impulses. Emotional reactions are immediate and often impulsive, while logical reasoning slows the mind and creates deliberate action. By engaging logic, you're no longer a prisoner of your feelings, you are the master of your choices. This is why staying calm and thinking clearly is more powerful than raising your voice or lashing out. Logic also protects relationships. When you respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally, people feel heard and respected. Even if they disagree, they recognize your composure and reason. Over time, this builds trust and influence. Calm, logical responses carry more weight than anger ever could. They show strength, not aggression. Choosing logic does not mean suppressing emotion completely. Emotions provide information. They tell you when something matters, when boundaries are crossed, or when action is necessary. The key is to process that emotion, not react impulsively to it. Logic channels emotion into productive responses, transforming energy that could destroy into energy that resolves. In confrontation, your greatest advantage is a mind guided by reason. Logic over emotion gives you clarity, authority, and control. It allows you to face conflict without losing yourself, and it ensures that your actions create solutions instead of regrets. When logic leads, calmness follows, and calmness is the ultimate power. Anger is often seen as the enemy in confrontation, but it is not. Anger is a signal. It tells you something matters, that boundaries have been crossed, or that the situation requires attention. The challenge is not to suppress anger, but to transform it into understanding. When you do this, confrontation stops being a battle and becomes a pathway to insight. Most people react to anger with more anger, creating a cycle that escalates conflict. But when you pause and observe your anger, you gain perspective. You ask yourself, why am I feeling this? What is the real issue beneath this emotion? When you shift your focus from reacting to understanding, you turn a destructive force into a tool for clarity. This transformation changes the energy of any confrontation. The moment you approach conflict with curiosity rather than aggression, people sense it. The tension begins to dissolve because anger cannot compete with calm attention. You stop feeding the fire and instead you guide the conversation toward resolution. Psychology reveals that reframing anger in this way reduces stress and increases problem-solving ability. When the mind is calm and focused, it sees solutions that emotional reactions would have missed. You begin to recognize patterns, motivations, and intentions that were hidden in the heat of conflict. And with this awareness, your response becomes deliberate, strategic, and powerful. Turning anger into understanding also strengthens relationships. When others see that you respond thoughtfully rather than explosively, they trust you more. They feel safe expressing themselves because you are not a threat. Conflict, instead of destroying connection, becomes a bridge to deeper respect and communication. Ultimately, The ability to transform anger is a mark of strength. It shows that you are in control of yourself, not your emotions. It proves that confrontation does not have to lead to regret or resentment. By converting anger into understanding, you unlock a calmness that is unshakable and a wisdom that guides every response. Stillness is one of the most underestimated tools in confrontation. When tension rises, most people react with movement, gestures, raised voices, or hurried words. But stillness communicates more than action ever could. It signals control, confidence, and presence. In a world where everyone is rushing to respond, the one who remains still stands above the storm. Stillness slows the energy of the room. It creates space for thought, observation, and strategic action. While others are caught up in emotion, the person who is still gains clarity. They notice the subtlety, the tone, the hesitation, the hidden intentions. These small details often hold the key to resolving the conflict. And because stillness draws attention, it naturally shifts the energy of the confrontation toward calmness. Psychologically, stillness impacts both the body and the mind. When you slow your movements, your nervous system responds by reducing tension and stress. Your heart rate drops, your mind sharpens, and your focus strengthens. The physical act of staying still reinforces mental control, creating a feedback loop that deepens calmness. Stillness also creates authority. People are naturally drawn to those who do not react impulsively. When everyone else is shouting or gesturing, stillness becomes magnetic. It commands respect because it shows that you are not ruled by fear or anger. You are grounded, centered, and unshakable. Importantly, stillness is not passivity. It is active restraint. It is the conscious decision to act with intention rather than reaction. Every word spoken from stillness carries weight. Every movement has meaning, and every pause strengthens your influence. By mastering stillness, confrontation loses its power to destabilize you, and you gain the power to guide. When you embrace stillness, you discover a quiet strength that others cannot challenge. It is the anchor in the chaos, the calm in the storm, and the foundation for every other skill in mastering confrontation. Those who cultivate stillness find that they are not only more respected, they are more effective, more resilient, and more in control of their lives. The battle in any confrontation is not only external, it is internal. What you say aloud is important, but what you say to yourself in your mind is even more powerful. Your inner dialogue shapes your reactions, your emotions, and ultimately the outcome of the conflict. When your mind is calm, your words follow. When your thoughts are chaotic, your actions reflect that chaos. Most people allow negative self-talk to control them. They think, I have to defend myself, or I cannot let them win. These thoughts fuel anger and fear and push them toward reactive behavior. But the person who masters inner dialogue understands that thoughts are not commands. They are signals. You can choose which thoughts to act on and which to let pass. This choice creates freedom. By guiding your inner dialogue, you maintain focus and clarity. You remind yourself of what matters, not what provokes. You repeat thoughts that strengthen your composure. I am calm, I am in control, I choose my response. And this mental discipline transforms the confrontation. It turns tension into insight, pressure into strategy, and emotion into purpose. Psychologically, the brain cannot distinguish between spoken words and deeply felt internal statements. Positive, controlled self-talk reduces stress, lowers adrenaline, and prevents impulsive reactions. It trains the mind to stay grounded, even when the other person is trying to provoke chaos. Mastering your inner dialogue also builds confidence. You know that no matter what is thrown at you, you can respond intentionally. You are not a victim of someone else's anger, words, or actions. You are the master of yourself. And when your mind is unshakable, your external calm follows naturally. The strength of inner dialogue is subtle but profound. It may go unnoticed by others, but it determines your effectiveness, your composure, and your power in every confrontation. By controlling your thoughts, you control your emotions. By controlling your emotions, you control the situation. And when the mind is steady, nothing can break your calm. True victory in confrontation is not measured by who shouted the loudest or who won the argument. Real victory is maintaining your peace, protecting your integrity, and walking away unshaken. Many people confuse aggression with strength, believing that proving themselves right equals winning. But in reality, winning without fighting is the ultimate demonstration of power. When you stay calm while others are reacting, You control the energy of the situation. You no longer feed the fire of anger or frustration. Your composure becomes the anchor, and your presence shifts the balance. People notice this. They respect it. And often, without saying a word, you gain more influence than any loud argument could achieve. Psychology shows that people are drawn to those who remain steady under pressure. Aggression triggers resistance, but calmness triggers attention. By refusing to engage in reactive behavior, you position yourself as the authority. You show that your value, your emotions, and your choices are not dictated by anyone else. That alone is a form of victory that lasts far beyond the moment. Winning without fighting also protects relationships and your own mental state. Arguments left unresolved with emotion often leave regret behind. But when you respond with calmness, logic, and respect, you prevent unnecessary damage. You handle the situation with intelligence, preserving both dignity and clarity. This approach does not mean avoiding responsibility or ignoring conflict. It means choosing how you engage and understanding that escalation is rarely necessary. By focusing on resolution and self-mastery, you win in ways that aggression never could. You gain respect, trust, and the inner confidence that comes from knowing you cannot be shaken. Ultimately, winning without fighting is about mastery of yourself. When your calmness dictates the response rather than your anger, you create outcomes that serve long-term success. In confrontation, this is the quiet strength that turns potential chaos into opportunity, proving that true power comes from control, not conflict. Calmness is not something you turn on only during confrontation. It is a skill that must be nurtured every day. Like any form of mastery, it grows stronger with consistent practice. Those who seem naturally unshakable have trained themselves long before the first conflict appeared. They have built habits that keep their minds steady, their emotions balanced, and their responses intentional. Daily practice begins with awareness. Notice your reactions in small moments, when someone cuts in line, when traffic frustrates you, or when a minor disagreement arises. These moments are opportunities to train calmness. Each time you pause, breathe, and respond thoughtfully, you reinforce the habit of controlled behavior. Over time, these small exercises create a foundation of unshakable composure. Meditation, deep breathing, and mindful reflection are powerful tools for cultivating calmness. They train the nervous system to resist stress, reduce impulsive reactions, and strengthen focus. Physical routines like exercise or stretching also support mental calmness by regulating energy and releasing tension. Combining these practices builds a resilience that shows itself most clearly in confrontation. Calmness as a daily practice also involves mental preparation. Visualize challenges, anticipate conflicts, and mentally rehearse responses. This doesn't mean overthinking or worrying. It means preparing your mind to act from clarity rather than chaos. When the moment arrives, your calmness is not reactive. It is second nature. Consistency is key. Calmness cannot be forced, it must be developed. With daily effort, what once felt difficult becomes instinctive. You respond instead of react. You listen instead of shouting. You lead instead of being led by emotion. And gradually, people begin to notice, not because you seek attention, but because your presence carries authority. By training calmness every day, you create a mind that cannot be easily provoked. You build the inner strength to face any confrontation with composure and wisdom. Daily practice transforms calmness from a skill into a way of life, giving you the power to remain unshaken in every situation. True calmness is not just a skill, it is a mindset. It is a way of seeing the world, understanding conflict, and knowing that no external chaos can control your inner state. The unshakable mindset comes from the combination of awareness, self-control, and daily practice. It is the foundation that allows you to face any confrontation with confidence and clarity. People with this mindset understand that life will always present challenges. Arguments will arise, tensions will flare, and emotions will surge. But they also know that these moments are not threats, they are tests. Every confrontation is an opportunity to practice calmness, to exercise patience, and to demonstrate strength without aggression. They approach conflict not with fear or reaction, but with purpose and presence. The unshakable mindset is rooted in self-mastery. It is the understanding that no one can truly control you except yourself. Your reactions, your words, and your emotions are your responsibility. When you accept this, you gain freedom. You no longer allow anger, pride, or fear to dictate your behavior. Instead, you respond intentionally, guided by logic, empathy, and calm authority. This mindset also creates resilience. In the face of provocation, criticism, or hostility, the unshakable person remains centered. They do not crumble under pressure, nor do they lash out impulsively. Their calm becomes a shield that protects not only their peace of mind, but also their ability to influence the outcome. Others may rage or push, but the unshakable mind remains steady, focused, and in control. Finally, the unshakable mindset transforms relationships and interactions. People are drawn to those who maintain composure under pressure. Respect is earned, trust is built, and influence is gained not through force, but through consistency and calm strength. Calmness becomes a statement that you are not defined by external chaos, but by your inner mastery. When calmness becomes a mindset, confrontation loses its power over you. You face every challenge with clarity, every argument with control, and every situation with confidence. The unshakable mind is the ultimate form of strength. It is freedom, it is authority, and it is the path to true mastery over yourself and your life.